You're watching MMA Oddsbreaker. Today we got Brent Weedman on the other end of Skype. Brent, you're doing daddy duty right now in the middle of this interview. Is that what you do every day in between practices? You have to take care of your son?
It is. It is. Most fighters have second jobs, right? So, in addition to the coaching that I do, I actually stay home with my kid 4 days a week. My wife works 4 days, and I stay home with him.
Oh, wow. What's your wife do?
She is a veterinary ophthalmologist, I'm sorry, a veterinary ophthalmology technician. She works on animal eyeballs. She assists in eye surgeries for cats and dogs and stuff like that.
So she does like LASIK for dogs?
More like dogs get in a fight and they have to have their eye taken out or stuff like that. But yeah, it's a lot of the same stuff that an ophthalmology tech would do, but a human ophthalmology tech would do, but just on dogs.
You're from Louisville, Kentucky, which for most of us, I live in Las Vegas, but I'm from the far East Coast, lived on the far West Coast. We automatically think horses and bluegrass and Kentucky Derby, like that's automatically pictures to our head. Is that kind of the upbringing that you and your wife had?
No, actually. So that's really accurate for the state of Kentucky. I travel a whole bunch, and everywhere I go, they're like, "Oh, Kentucky, so you don't wear shoes and you marry your cousins."
I don't want to say all that, but yeah.
But I sort of, I know what you're thinking. It's okay. But the way I like to put it is, there's two places in Kentucky. There's Kentucky, and then there's Louisville. They're two very different places. Louisville's the biggest city in Kentucky. So yeah, we do have Churchill Downs, which is where the Kentucky Derby is held. So yeah, horses are definitely in our culture, but there's no room for horses actually in Louisville. All the horses are outside of Louisville. They're out in the surrounding counties.
See, because the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm thinking, like, how is it to get training partners? How hard is it to find a place to train? How hard is it to get great coaches? But you're in a big city, so coaching and training is not that difficult to find. So what's it like over at Team Haycraft? Like, who are some of the training partners that you're working out with, and who are the coaches?
Well, so actually, I'm not with Team Haycraft anymore. I know some of the online resources haven't been updated, but we sort of went our separate ways about a year ago.
Is it amicable, or was there a fight that caused it to break?
What's that?
Was it an amicable breakup, or were you two fighting when it broke?
It was amicable. We were just going separate directions. Team Haycraft is 100% kickboxing. He's a kickboxing coach. He's actually one of the better kickboxing coaches, in the region. The guys come from all over the United States to train with him. But he hates MMA. He hates it. Hates MMA, hates grappling. So there was, I consider myself, I certainly kickbox quite a bit, but I consider myself more of a jiu-jitsu fighter at heart. And so that just eventually, we needed to go our separate ways. I'm at a gym called Derby City MMA. We've got a lot of really tough guys. It's got a huge jiu-jitsu competition team that is, internationally ranked and do quite well for themselves. You are right, though, that once you reach a certain level, it can be tough to get sparring partners, especially like MMA sparring partners. So I do a lot of traveling for that, most notably to a gym in Indianapolis called Indiana Boxing and Grappling. It's actually where Chris Lytle trains, is the name that everybody would know up there. There's another guy there named Garrett Whiteley, who's on the next UFC in Brazil, lightweight fighter who's really, really tough. And so I do a lot of, I'll go up there every other week, and they'll come down and train with me. So when I've been training with those guys for 6 or 7 years. So it requires a little bit of travel, but it's not as bad as you'd think. Like you said, Louisville's a pretty big city, so we've got a burgeoning fight scene, we'll say. We got a pretty good fight scene around here.
Well, let's break down Justin Baesman. That's your opponent coming up here in Bellator on September 20th, Grand Canyon University out in Phoenix, Arizona. What is Justin like as a fighter? What do you see when you watch tape on him?
What I see with Justin is that he's just gritty and tough. He's made a career out of beating guys that are probably technically better than him on paper. And I like that about him. He's a fighter's fighter. He's got a lot of confidence. You don't run into a lot of fighters that are confident throwing 6 or 7 head kicks every round or something like that. He's kind of brawly. He doesn't do anything very technically sound, I don't think. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't do it effectively. You know, it's not always, those two things are not always synonymous. So, and he's stocky. He's strong. He looks like a real strong guy.
He ends up winning most of his fights. That was 14 wins. He's got 7 decisions. That's how he wins. A couple, like 3 submissions or so, and then 4 KO TKOs that were earlier in his career. So you know for sure going with a guy like this, it's going to be a long, drawn-out fight. It's going to go deep.
Yeah.
Does that change how your training camp goes, knowing for sure this guy is a guy that likes to grind out, but can do it for the entire fight for all 3 rounds?
Well, it does. It does. The big thing that it changes is, or that it affects, is my game plan, because I'm looking at how he's dragging these fights out and how he's ending up, you know, going the distance. Because I don't think there's any fighter out there. He's certainly not like a wrestler that wants to hold you down for 15 minutes kind of deal. I don't think he wants to go to the decision. But like I said, I call guys like Justin Baesman, I call them style killers. They're the kind of guy that'll come out, clinch you up against the cage, maybe drag you down to the ground. Lots of very tight hold, isometric, holding on to you. And they take great fighters and just make them look like shit, and just make them tired and drag them into deep waters like that. And then, like you said, you know, he's had half of his career wins go to decision like that.
And guys just fall apart, and they can't. We call it in the old wrestling circus, like they can't handle the heat because they can't handle that kind of constant pressure from a guy that just doesn't give you any space. And it does change how you think about things. Do you have to sit down a lot with your coach and go, look, does your coach go, here's the game plan, this is what we want to implement for this fight? Or do you go, this is what I see, this is kind of what I would like to do, and you two collaborate, and then you guys put it together? Which way does it go between you and your coach?
Well, that's the beautiful thing about the coaching that I've got now. Like I said, when I was with a pure kickboxer, it didn't matter what the opponent was. It was, let's go out, box them up, and kick them in the head. You know,
Right.
you know whether or not I wanted to take them down or felt more comfortable on the ground. So the great thing about the coaches that I have now is that they know me really well. We're good friends in addition to working professionally together, and they know me and they know my style, and so it is very collaborative. We watched a lot of tape. Baesman put most of his fights on YouTube, which was very helpful for me. And
or silly, depending on who you're talking to. It's like it's helpful for you, but silly for him. Kind of a
yeah. I understand fighters need to promote themselves and stuff, but I sort of purposely kept most of my stuff off of YouTube for this reason. But we look at it and we watched it on our own, and then we sort of meet together and we say, well, what did you see? What did I see? What was reassuring about this is that we saw a lot of the same stuff. And you know how the game is. You can't have a game plan. You have to have game plan A, game plan B, game plan R, game plan S. You know, it goes. So I've got a general standing game plan, and I've got a general ground game plan. He said in a number of interviews that he wants it to stay standing. He wants to fight me the way I fought, the way Chris Lozano beat me, trying to stay outside and pot shot me with counterattacks and stuff. But watching his fights, I don't think he's going to like that game plan once he gets hit. So I've got a couple contingency plans for him.
Good. All right. Well, Brent, thanks for coming on here. I know you got to get back to your son. I appreciate spending some time here with us at MMA Oddsbreaker, and good luck on your fight against Justin Baesman. I'm interested in this fight. I want to see how this one works out, because I think both of you guys are going to be great, athletically speaking. It's going to be a great fight to watch.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, and thanks for having me on. It was a real honor to talk to a legend like yourself.
Thanks for calling me out. I appreciate it.
No worries, man.
Thanks, man.